Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today, I'm coming to you all with a review for Sound of Hope, the Story of Possum Trot. Co-written and directed by Josh Weigel, also co-written by Rebekah Weigel, and starring Demetrius Grosse, Nika King, and Elizabeth Mitchell. Story-wise, the film is centered around Donna and Reverend Martin, a Christian married couple who hail from the town of Possum Trot, Texas. In the wake of unexpected loss, the two find their lives forever changed when they are called to ignite a fire in the hearts of their community to embrace kids in foster care that no one else will. So, I am going to start with the pros, and man, I have to tell you, this was such a surprise. Such a surprise. I first and foremost have to shout out my good friend Kellee. Yes, Kellee, if you're watching, I am talking about you. Kellee is actually the one who put this film on my radar because I was not familiar with it. We had actually been having some discussions about different films we were interested in seeing and just getting out to the theater. And I didn't think anything of it at the time because I remember looking it up, but I think by the time, it was so long ago that by the time the film actually came out, I probably had forgotten. And so then I saw that there was an advanced screening for the film, and since she had told me about it, I was like, okay, well maybe this is a good opportunity for us to hang out and check the film out and just see what we think, just have the experience, right? If I'm going to be really honest, I did have my reservations going into it, not because I didn't appreciate the subject matter. Well, sometimes when I see films that purport to be, the feel-good movie of the holiday season, or you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be inspired. And it's not to say that I don't appreciate positivity, because I can't watch toxic, dark, creepy things all the time, like super serious. Like, I appreciate films and stories especially that highlight good in the world, that there are still good things happening, there are still good people, there are things to hope for. Sound of hope, right? So I was fine with that. I just didn't know how it was going to land for me. Well, I am so happy to say that I was absolutely wrong. This film gave me a whole lot I was not expecting and really didn't know I needed. And I know I say that all the time, but really, I didn't know I needed what this film had to offer. And I really did. So keeping with everything that I just said, I appreciate how honest this film felt. Like, it didn't feel like it was necessarily tugging on my heartstrings in a cheap way. It didn't feel like it was taking the subject matter and just saying like, oh, let's throw something that's, not layered or kind of one-dimensional. And I mean, it felt like the film and the story in general, with, of course, that real-life basis, but it just felt like it was really trying to address the trauma, the complications, the layered, confusing emotions when it comes to adoption and trying to take that on, and specifically taking on children that are not desirable, are the ones who have been through the most or are carrying some kind of additional trauma and are problem children. And I understand that when it comes to children, how that can be. I understand when children don't behave a certain way, and I get it. And I understand the whole concept of bad kids and being bad, but I think there's a lot more to that. And this film definitely reminded me of that. And it was really about digging deep and digging into the layers of what some children can experience. Because when I think about my own experience as a child and in life, I was very fortunate and I was very blessed to have a family, to have a community, not just in church, but also, as a result, surrounding community in the Midwest, where I had family, I had friends, I had, my mother had family, my mother had friends that could take care of me. And, while she was also just trying to build things for herself professionally, just trying to grow and learn, I had the opportunity to also be around so many great people family that poured into me, that gave me memories that still, to this day, there are very specific core memories that have shaped me in so many ways. But I also have to realize that that's, I think once I got older, I realized that's not always the experience. And then understanding the foster care system and adoption and so many things that can happen. Like once you understand more about the world, it's like, man, like I'm very grateful, but I also know that I had to understand like there can be a lot of things, even in family, even without the foster care piece, there are terrible things that can happen. So it's just me being grateful, but also being empathetic and understanding to know that, hey, you might have had a great experience, but there are so many children that wish that they could have that they just wish like they could have a life that would, in comparison seem normal or somewhat stable. So I love the fact that this film really delved into that, and it goes there. And I like the fact that it wasn't just something that was easy, that was simple, adopt the children and now everything falls into place and everything's right. And it's like, no. No. There was a lot of work, a lot of patience, a lot of love, a lot of dedication, a lot of perseverance, like all the things. And I liked that as well. And I think that once we get to the end of the film, the journey that we've been on, it feels all the more rewarding because it hasn't just felt like some kind of, simple story. It hasn't just felt like something that was easy. You really recognize what it takes to be a parent. And especially in regards to having a child that hasn't grown up with you. And when it comes to love, that is something that reaches far beyond a biological tie. Love is about loving regardless, loving unconditionally. But sometimes there is a disadvantage even in having an adopted child that doesn't start off as a baby. Like, so you're already coming in with so many things that these children have seen and had to endure and experience, and then they now have to unlearn that and actually embrace love, and they still don't know if what they're getting is genuine because of the things that they've seen. So the layers to that, I appreciated how this film went into that, because there was some scenes that I was just like, whoo, the faith and the dedication that was needed, because I'm like, man, would I really have had the mindset and the wherewithal to keep going with this? And I love the fact that, again, with it being a true life story, I loved seeing what it was like for Donna and the Reverend to keep going and really showcase their community. Like, this is something that we have been called to do. This is something that God has placed in our hearts. This is something that is not only for us to do, but to truly impact an entire community. And let's really make an impact in the lives of these children. And I just thought it was beautiful. I really, really did. And let me tell you, I am not someone who cries easily. Like, it takes a lot to get some tears out, only because it has to strike me in a certain place. But man, there were plenty of moments where I was just like, whoo, I feel it. And that's how I knew it was genuine, because I don't just cry at the drop of a hat. So the fact that it was reaching into some places and really like pulling that out of me, I could definitely tell that the writers, the directors, everyone really came together to do their job. What adds to that mindset is the fact that I've seen faith-based films before. I've seen plenty. Some are good, some are... And I think the thing is, you appreciate the message regardless, but sometimes the way it's executed, or sometimes you don't get that depth, you don't get this full reflection of real life and how you have the highs and the lows. Everything sometimes feels like it's coming too easy, or just the perception of what God is and how he shows up in the lives of people in the church or outside of the church. And there have been times where I've just kind of been flustered and not necessarily connected to some of these films, because I'm like, I appreciate this, but like, you're missing some things. And I would say this as someone who also is a believer and also has had his faith tested in a lot like a multitude of ways. I just think sometimes we need films that also speak to that. And there are ways to do it, but I've just seen, I've kind of been up and down. There have been some that have really been on point, and there have been some where it's just been like, this could have really gone so much further. Still appreciate the basis of it, but some of them just don't land with me, if I'm being honest. So as I mentioned, the director of this film is Joshua Weigel, and he co-wrote this film with his wife, Rebekah. And I could not believe it. But of course, I do my research and I make sure to, get a sense of who the director is, what their past work is. Now, Joshua Weigel, this is his feature directorial debut. But he has acted before in another faith-based film called To Save a Life. And I was like, are you serious? Because I honestly remember back in 2009 when myself and two of my friends, this was back in my college town, but we literally were like, look, we're going to go see this film. And, didn't have a car and, times were tough, but we were like, you know what, we're going to make this like a little bit of an adventure. We're going to take a walk and we're going to walk from the campus all the way down to the movie theater. And it was a really great experience. And, I didn't know anything about the film going in, but I appreciated the message of it. I enjoyed it. And again, it didn't feel like something that was surface. You know what I'm saying? It just felt like, okay, like this is a different kind of perspective and I appreciate what this has to say. I just think you have to find a balance in how you choose to showcase those stories. But he acted as one of the characters in that film. So it was so wild to realize that I had that experience with that film, although he was just an actor in it. And all these years later, he is now directing his feature directorial debut, and it's for this film that also has had an impact on me in a way that is very genuine and, very resonant. So I was just like, wow. I really loved that. I just kind of felt like almost like, just kind of a full circle moment. So I thought that was really, really awesome. Again, along with this story and with the writing, I thought the performances were so great. Like, again, the acting just really brought it home for me. And the ensemble cast really brought it home as well. Like, everyone really contributed to making this film something special. I also have to say, like, when you get to the end of the film and there's something it shows you as far as, let's just say, how that has affected the future. Like, how Possum Trot has evolved in the wake of all this. And man, like if I already wasn't, because honestly, I felt like where it left off was a beautiful ending. And I was just like, there was that. But then they had this other piece at the end. I was just like, whoa. So yes, this got me. This really, really did. I don't even know what to say. As far as the cons, I didn't really have any cons. I would just say that there were probably a couple of moments tonally that felt a little off. And I would have been interested in learning more about the dynamic of other churches in relation to Possum Trot, because I just thought there was interesting commentary, quasi-commentary in there, which I thought was intriguing. Now, I know the story wasn't necessarily about that, but I thought that was kind of like that also was surprising to me. But I would have loved to have just seen a little bit more of that, but of course we kind of get away from that as we go on. And like I said, just a couple of moments that maybe tonally didn't quite click with me, but there was so much of the film that did, that it wasn't really, it's kind of like nitpicking. But I just wanted to be honest and just say that there were probably some moments that maybe just didn't hit me all the way 100% like the other ones did. All right, so I'm going to give Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot. So I'm not going to grade this one because I feel like it's one of those things where you either see it or you don't. You either appreciate the message or you don't, or it's something that speaks to you or it doesn't. I don't think it's necessarily about, I gave my review, but for me, it doesn't necessarily come down to a grade because I feel like the message is such a powerful thing. And the fact that there's this genuine heart and genuine platform to support these children and to make that impact in this country and so on, I just think that's a beautiful thing. So for me, I would just say it's definitely something that's worth seeing. And as someone who has been very frustrated with the summer movie season thus far, I mean, just ugh. I have to say I really appreciate this film for giving me a whole lot that I didn't know I needed. Yes, those are fireworks. I made the mistake of recording this as well, not realizing this was going to happen. But either way, hopefully with it being a holiday, July 4th, Independence Day for some, I hope that you all will be able to take your family and just experience this film and really enjoy it. And I hope it's something that really speaks to people, because I think for me also, like I said, as a believer myself and who sometimes grapples with faith, it reminded me like, hey, like having faith and believing in where God can really order your steps and direct you, it can go far beyond you, and it might end up making an impact in ways you can't even begin to understand. So yeah, so really impactful film, and I think this might even go on my end of year list. Like it did a lot for me, and I'm very grateful to the makers of this. And just again, the heart, the message, so many things. But yes. Sound of Hope, The Story of Possum Trot, is now playing in theaters. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, it's D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.